Welcome to our Banking After Hours series, co-produced with Backbase, where we sit down with banking titans and get their views on the future of banking and beyond. We're joined by Sammeer, who is the Managing Director of Consumer, Private and Business Banking at StanChart Bank, and Riddhi Dutta, who is the Regional Vice President for ASEAN in Backbase, a banking engagement platform. Now, as a global bank, StanChart is no stranger to innovation, from your digibank Mox in Hong Kong, Trust Bank in Singapore, to your innovation arm, SC Ventures. I think there's no shortage of excitement in Standard Chartered Bank. Locally, Standard Chartered Bank has a rich history that goes as far back as 1875, where you guys had your first branch in Penang, which, being from Penang, I love the fact that you guys are from Penang as well. It's exciting to be joined by Sammeer, who is a seasoned veteran with over 2 decades of experience and who's been recently promoted to his new role about a year or two ago?
15 months.
15 months. Congratulations on your new role, by the way. So, 15 months into your new role, Sammeer, what are some key milestones, some key initiatives that you've executed under your leadership?
Well, first, thanks for having me, Vincent.
Glad to have you all, as always.
Glad to hear the history of StanChart well. Being a
Have to
Penang
study
boy.
these things.
Okay, so the StanChart strategy, and you've spoken in the past as well, hasn't changed, right? So we are fundamentally focused on affluent and wealth in a big way. Digital innovation is big for us, right? And now we are stepping up significantly in the sustainability space. So some of the key highlights in the past year, 12, 15 months have been just expanding our array of digital offerings for our customers, right? And making sure they are far more comprehensive. So an example is we have launched, I would say, the most cutting edge online equity platform in Malaysia.
Yeah, I saw the launch of that, yeah.
So it gives you access to about 13 markets onshore through your banking app. Now that is something in this market we offer, and this is at par with what we offer in developed markets like Hong Kong or Singapore. Right? That's one example. On the sustainability front, we have launched green mortgages. So we were pretty strong and ahead of the curve on sustainable investments all along. Right.
In line with your here for good kind of...
Absolutely. So green mortgages has gone live last year. So has sustainable term deposits.
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
the deposit gathering also is something now we have moved towards a sustainable offering. So that's ongoing. And a lot of the stuff that you're seeing is also being recognized by the industry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we won some awards recently from Digital
Congratulations,
Banker
by the way.
for the FX platform, which we launched in 21.
Yeah.
Right. For the equity platform now, and also for our SME offerings. So that is also being recognized pretty well in the market right now.
There's certainly a lot of exciting things happening in this past 15 months, right? Other than that, I guess one thing that caught my attention was your pet-friendly branch in Arcadia. As a pet lover, I kind of love the idea that you can just walk in with your dogs and, really cool idea.
That's the first and only pet-friendly branch in the country.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff, I guess, you did mention StanChart has always been very focused on digitalization.
Yeah.
But recently you've enhanced some focus in sustainability, which is a big and important issue. But on the digitalization front, I think the market has evolved a lot over this 2 decades, right?
Yeah.
And what have you observed in terms of how StanChart has also evolved alongside some of these rapid changes that we see in the banking industry as well?
From a bank standpoint, I'll give you a big number first, to set the context, I guess. As a bank globally, not Malaysia, globally, we are investing almost $1 billion on technology. And that could be in space of innovation, or it could be just digitizing the forward. Right? So that gives you a big sense of how serious and how big we are in this space.
$1 billion serious, right?
The second piece is in the medium term, again, globally for us, we intend to generate almost half of our revenue from digital initiatives, which could be either partnerships, digital banks, or by digitizing the core bank itself. That's just to set the context, right? Now, what that basically means is, as a bank, we have taken a position that we would rather disrupt ourselves. So we are pretty strong on that, and that's where Mox or Trust Bank have come into play, right?
You guys are doing a fantastic job in Hong Kong, by the way.
Disrupting,
Mox,
yeah, exactly. So from that, we're fundamentally disrupting our own self and trying to innovate and stay ahead of the curve. And that's on new innovation, but also the core bank.
Yeah.
The intent is to continuously improve and digitize our offerings, either from a client-facing standpoint or from the backend.
Correct.
It fundamentally means the client journey has to become as seamless as possible.
For sure.
COVID has, in a way, been a very positive impetus or push for this, because a lot more clients started adopting digital offerings.
Naturally,
Right?
yeah.
So today, almost 2/3 of our transactions happen digitally.
That's
12,
fantastic.
right?
Yeah, it's good.
That's the
Yeah.
skew one context. If you come into StanChart and you want to become an investment client or a wealth client, uh, you want to invest
I'll come in-
$1,000 or
come
go
in
to
my pad as well.
or you want to invest $1 million,
Yeah.
you can do it non-face to face. You don't have to come and meet everybody.
Yeah,
So that's a pace of innovation, and it's a continuous journey. This is something we will continue on.
certainly. I'll contact you when I have $1 million. Really, from your observation, you work with a lot of incumbent
Yeah.
banks as well, right? I mean, some have evolved, some probably has not. What have you observed in terms of how the incumbent banks are responding to some of these changes in the past few decades?
I think banks like StanChart obviously have a head start over everybody else, right? Because it's about the assets that the bank has today, which probably some of the other banks might not have the luxury of that asset, right?
The budget certainly
The
helps.
budget,
as
the
well.
budget is obviously one of them. I mean,
So that
you
certainly
can
helps.
only do certain things when you have the money
Yeah,
to do it, right?
yeah.
But having kept that aside, if you look at the aggression with which StanChart is going after individual markets, and that's where Mox, Trust, and now even SC Nexus, right? What your overall loosely defined banking as a service proposition comes in. Yeah, very unique propositions. Today, when I look at some of the other more local banks, not just regional, but even local banks, they are taking cue from these sort of initiatives.
Yeah.
The fact that they are launching their own speedboats, they are launching
Yeah.
their own digital brands,
Yeah.
is somewhere getting inspired from some of these, directions that global brands like StanChart have set for. I really like the SC Nexus concept because
It's a very cool initiative.
nobody
yeah.
has probably thought
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
yet, right? And StanChart started on that journey 3 years back almost, in terms of about 4 years back, right? And again, way ahead of its time, right? I mean, thinking about that and then bringing it to markets like Indonesia and all of these markets and then piloting it out. I think that's where more local and regional banks are looking at larger players like Standard
Yeah.
Chartered to set the path for it, to prove that some of these things actually do work. And then that gives them confidence to go to their shareholders, their board members, that listen, if they have done it on a larger scale, I can do it in my country at a smaller scale, right? Now, obviously, digitization is all over our place. There's no need to talk about it. But there's one interesting thing that I think Sammeer spoke about is the sustainability bit as well. These are very closely interlinked, right? Because the way we are trying to cut down on a lot of things, like let's say paper or emission and all of that, is very strongly linked to how much digitization you're doing and how are you doing it properly. Like what Sammeer said, if you can onboard a wealth relationship or a private banking relationship without even having to go and meet an RM or an RM coming to your house,
Those are all carbon footprint, right?
right? Signing papers, you are reducing carbon footprint. So I think sustainability, ESG, digitization, all of them are very closely
Hand in
linked.
hand, for sure.
It's not being spoken about as widely. So I'm happy that Sammeer brought it up because we bring it up, right, in our discussions with banks and financial institutions. It's, as I said, it's not just about technology. Technology is always going to be an enabler for something much larger out there. And sustainability is something that we also practice. We really talk about it passionately. So good that you brought it up, Sammeer. Yeah.
I mean, certainly technology do play a big role in terms of data and managing. Like being able to track is a key thing to realize a lot of the sustainability goals as well. Switching gears a little bit, I think one of the things that StanChart did probably last year or 2 years ago that really caught most people's attention is the investment into Atomy, right? I think if my figures are correct, you probably invested about a bit, how much? Half a billion?
$500 million.
Half a billion into Atomy. And the BNBL market has changed quite a bit with this new interest rate environment. Are you still bullish on BNBL in the same way that you guys were a year or two ago?
I mean, the short answer is yes, right? So the way to look at it is anything you do, we are in for the long haul. There will be temporary movements up and down.
Yeah.
Now, from a BNPL standpoint specifically, it's a market which is developing as we speak and growing more because of consumer preferences and demands and how things have changed. Talking about that, right? And it's about added convenience of how they can shop and how they can know about things. And the emergence of e-commerce and stuff like that is making it even more convenient. So it's about that journey. This is becoming more friction-free and easy with technology. And that's what is helping the whole consumer adoption for it. Malaysia, for example, and I think globally the same. The expected growth rate is at about, I think, mid 30%. So it's about 33, 34% CAGR. Same for Malaysia. Malaysia is expected to be market worth about $7 billion by 2028 for BNPL. So it's a big business that will continue growing. Now, to your pointed question, I guess the players who take a more strategic view when it comes to lending in terms of being prudent and also being capable of acquiring clients at a lower cost. And that could be either because they have a platform of their own and they have the client base, or if you're working with strategic partners like Adobe in this case, would potentially be in a better position to sustain and grow it in a profitable fashion, right? Now, the regulatory changes also.
For sure, the consumer's
landscape
credit act,
is very helpful and they help, right? So as you know, Bank Negara has just about announced the CCA. Now that I think is a great step in the right direction because it helps bring innovation, but it also helps standardize and bring some level of semblance to the playing field for the industry
some
players
order
around,
to all this
right?
chaos, right?
Correct. So the framework will help, and it's just timely given the way rates are rising and stuff. So it's just nice. So it all comes together very well. That's how we look at it.
I think fundamentally, ease of access to credit will always be a good thing for consumers.
Always.
Of course, credit-worthy consumers, right? But I guess the challenge is just that maybe some of these business models, as you mentioned, were not sustainable. So I guess there's still a lot of room for BNBL to grow. But maybe changing gears a little bit, I think we all know the household debt in Malaysia is quite high. And it's not the case that's just for Malaysia, because consumerism is a big thing that happens all around the globe. With the rise of business models like Save Now, Buy Later, maybe I'll direct this question to Rudy. Do you think there should be a shift to financial wellness versus like being so much focused on access to credit and driving all this consumerism?
And I think that shift has already started. The answer is yes, right?
Okay.
Financial wellness today is a very, very big theme. And I'm pretty sure, Sammeer, you would also see that resonating in the market as well. And it's not just for retail consumers only. If you go to small businesses, right, their cash flow projections, which results in financial wellness, financial health. Am I going to be cash negative, cash positive, based on my, let's say, payables and receivables? It's a huge topic. Now, what is missing possibly today is, yes, we are getting into financial wellness, but are banks and financial institutions taking action on it proactively, right? A very interesting use case that we saw and again, we don't take credit for it because it's a business use case, right? We as a technology have only enabled it. A very interesting use case, one of our banks in the UK, a large SME bank, did was on the same cash flow piece, small and medium entrepreneurs, they had access to their obviously payables and receivables. You can do your cash flow. Now, you can also see that possibly you're going to cash negative based on, let's say 2 months down the line, right? As a bank, are you just going to sit down and take notice of it? Or are you going to take proactive action and tell that SME, hey, you're going to go cash negative, here is an overdraft for you, or here is a working capital loan for you? I think that's a space where banks are still in that journey of, it's not just financial wellness, but can you be a financial advisor where you're not just telling a customer that, okay, this is happening, but you're also advising that same customer, okay, this is happening, so do this, right? So it's all tied to financial wellness, very important, but that's a gap which still exists in terms of how can banks take that next step to being that advisor and not just somebody who's giving you that information.
But sometimes it starts with the small things as well, right? I mean, as a consumer myself, not naming any banks, but I always get push notifications like, oh, get this discount, get this credit, but like I never get reminders to pay my credit card bills. And sometimes I miss the payment. I'm like, would have been helpful. Going back to StanChart's initiatives in Hong Kong and Singapore, Trust Bank with Mox Bank, you guys have seemingly very localized strategy in each market on how you want to go about things, right? What is the game plan in Malaysia?
Yeah, so I spoke earlier as well, right? So from a digital standpoint, we have a fairly comprehensive strategy. Now, one that you have seen playing out is Hong Kong, Singapore, where they've gone with Mox and Trust, and they're pretty successful ventures. In fact, Trust has acquired, I think, close to, and the number is growing. I think the last one I remember is about 400,000 clients. 400,000 is what I...
Last report I remember, you guys were the leading ones in Hong Kong.
Yeah. Same in Singapore.
Yeah,
Singapore has been very successful, right?
Yeah.
So that's one strategy, which is to create our own entities which are ground up with a newer platform, nimbler UI UX, so the client journeys are very seamless, right? The other approach we're taking, which includes markets like Malaysia, markets like Indonesia, and markets like Vietnam, right, and a few other markets for that matter, is to work with platforms, right? Work with platforms. They could be e-commerce players or any of the platforms who are looking at engaging their clients more and more on the platforms and build more loyalty. While the clients are also saying that, hey, I would like to continue engaging and doing more stuff on the same platform. So they want the convenience of being on the platform and not going out. And this is where we are coming and saying, hey, we can offer embedded finance solutions. Yeah, through our partners, through the platforms, the clients in a seamless fashion, right? And there are multiple models to do that. So we just spoke about Nexus, for example. Now that's an in-house BaaS entity that we have created through SC Ventures, right? So it's already in the news that we are going live with them in Indonesia, with Bukalapak, right? You'll hear more stuff about it.
We're keeping a close eye, actually.
So that's one of the strategies we're working on. But clearly the strategy here is to work with platforms and partners to offer embedded finance solutions. And Atom is one example, but there'll be more that you will see coming soon.
Any tidbits on what we can expect in the next...
That's all I can share. That you will see more exciting stuff coming soon.
I will
Look
follow
forward
closely.
to it.
But I mean, BaaS has evolved quite a bit. I think if you have this conversation with bankers 3-4 years, with the exception of you guys maybe, a lot of them are still trying to wrap their head around the concept of BaaS and how to embed themselves into platforms and whatnot. Are you observing really like more and more banks entering into this game plan, or do you think the maturity is largely still a little bit behind in Asia?
See, banking as a service is a very big game, and to be fair, it's not for everybody, right? You need that scale to be able to get out there and get into banking as a service. What we're rather seeing is probably 1 or 2 steps behind it is embedded finance, which is probably a step down or a couple of step downs. And what I was talking about earlier, the larger platform economy, which I think Sammeer also alluded to, right? What they're doing in Malaysia. We are seeing more of that with local banks and regional banks getting into that platformification and embedded finance. Banking as a service is probably a little bit too ahead for some of the smaller players. But even within embedded finance, even within that platform economy, we are really seeing cool stuff happening nowadays, right? I mean, some of the work, things that, BNBL, for instance, right? Can a bank do it on their own completely? Possibly no. You need that collaboration. You need that partnership. And that's where embedded finance comes in. That's where platform economy comes in. The banking as a service, and that's why I was very intrigued when 4 years back,
certainly,
SC Nexus came, that it was ahead of its time. It's still probably ahead of its time for our part of the world, because you don't have too many banks who have the wherewithal to really pull this off.
It's quite a big leap for a lot of banks.
It's a huge leap. I don't really know if it's also something very common, because, we are a global company. We work with banks in Europe and US as well. We have not really seen banks out there also taking banking as a service. Yes, there has been a Solaris Bank or a Rails Bank, but it's very regionalized still, right? You don't have a larger player like StanChart who has done that. And Solaris and Rails also, whether they're successful or not, that's a different discussion, right? So banking as a service is a very huge leap. And I don't really see any of the local banks, regional banks in this part of the world doing that in the next foreseeable future.
But certainly the conversations are starting
Conversation is starting, and that's where embedded finance, platforms, you see more of those discussions. Banks have started thinking about, okay, it's not about channels. It's not about products, right? It's about customer journeys. It's about context of the customer. And the moment banks start thinking about those points, you will be forced to think about platforms. Be forced to think about the ecosystem, because you cannot do all of that on your own. It's just not possible.
Certainly. Now, maybe let's just, to wrap up, let's take a step back and look at broad trends, right? What are some of the most significant trends that you see would impact banking in the next few years? Big question.
A very broad question, right? I guess from a technology standpoint, let's stay on the topic, right? Beyond the stuff you've spoken about in terms of working with partners or platforms,
ESG, BaaS.
sustainability. I guess these are obvious things that will happen. One big area which is also being recognized as a very important area is fundamentally around the cyber risk, or anything to do
so
with
important,
so that's an emerging area, and I mean, you can call it a known area, but still, as technology is evolving so fast, right? The risk associated with that is also evolving at the same pace.
Expense,
So staying apace with that making sure that the technology is enabled for that. Also, the education, the literacy around that is very high, not only for the bankers, but also for consumers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because the level of sophistication with which some of these phishing or other kinds of scams that happen today is very, very...
It's a challenge to keep up because these people,
And
they constantly
that's something
evolve as
everybody
well.
has to keep an eye on,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
that's on everybody's mind, including regulators, including us as financial institutions. And then that's a big one. And
I think as a national importance, you can see it culminating in the fact that there are inter-agency cooperation between the Bank Negara, Securities Commission, the police force to have an anti-scam, like all the cybersecurity kind of task force, right? So certainly something that's a big team moving forward as well. Really, what are your thoughts on big trends?
Yeah, I mean, good that you brought it up. I think what I'm looking at is something a little bit more simpler, if I may use the term. Because what you spoke about is very important, but it's a very niche area, right? It's a very niche area. What I'm seeing, and this is what I'm seeing for the last 12 to 18 months also, and probably it will be an extension, is that more and more technology discussions are not with the technology office of the bank anymore. Earlier, when and I've been
that's really changed over the years.
And that's a change in the right direction.
Yeah.
I started my career selling core banking, right? And while core banking impacts the branch, the operations, everything, it was still the IT office which used to run the show. Today we are seeing, and that's a shift in the right direction, the technology decisions are being taken by business.
Yeah.
And that, does it make the CIO less powerful or more powerful? Probably yes or no. But I think that technology is being looked at in the right manner within the industry. Technology is being looked at as, if I do this right, I can do my business better. It's not about keeping the lights on anymore, right? It's not about, okay, I just need a core banking to keep the branches on. So that's the shift in the right direction from our lens, from our perspective. We are having more discussions with, CDOs and head of retail bankings and head of business banking, understanding what their pain points are, and can technology play a role in getting rid of some of those pain points. It's not so much of those early days where, Sammeer, you might know, get a list of 500 requirements from the CIO's office, checkbox.
Check it out, yeah.
Okay, come in.
Job
so
done.
I think that's a good trend. It's more business driven. Technology is becoming more of an enabler of business. And that's where we feel very satisfied that we are probably in the right space at the right time with the right set of people having those discussions as well.
And I think even for the bank. Sorry.
Just to add on that, right? So I think the aspects which are playing out there more prominently now, which again are not new, but now they're becoming even more important, and there is enough technology to support that, is how do you leverage on data? So finally, data is absolutely
Yeah.
So how do you monetize? How do you drive insights a little more smartly and sharply and quickly? Second, to the point Reddy just mentioned, it's also about building very, very strong client-centric journeys, which are more friction-free. That's a big thing, right? Because now digital is par for course.
Yeah.
Now it's about how smooth the journeys can become and how frictionless
it's just hygiene right now to be
it's
digital.
hygiene. It's hygiene.
It's not a feature anymore, right? And I think to Reddy's point before we wrap up, also I see the role of being a C-level in the bank has evolved so much, because in the past, if you're a CIO, you just need to be tech savvy. If you're a business, you just need to be business savvy. Now it's a merging of both roles, right? You need to have both skill sets.
And the most interesting part is when you have CEOs come in, and obviously they are business guys, but then they also talk about technology.
Oh, yeah, of course.
5 years
Very
back,
different.
6 years back, probably CEOs would be very business focused. Today, you have CEOs talking about microservices. You have CEOs talking about cloud. Right?
Unthinkable years ago.
Unthinkable years ago. So I think it's a step in the right direction overall. Yeah. So
with that, gentlemen, thank you for your insights and your time. Been a great pleasure chatting with both of you.